Nairobi was last week named as one of the world's most vibrant cities due to its ability to compete in today's world, and that was the only African city in the list. Yet, over the past year, some major companies based in the capital have either closed shop or laid off thousands of employees. Trade, Industry and Cooperatives Cabinet Secretary Adan Mohammed says those numbers are overstated and many more are hiring. NTV's Larry Madowo spoke to him at the World Economic Forum in Davos.
If you look at the numbers in terms of companies either downsized or some full out closed, what's happening?
I think there's been actually a lot of, unfortunately, negative vibes that have been put out there, focusing a lot on companies that have been either downsizing or closing, and totally ignoring the good news about some of the investments that we are seeing coming into our country.
Is there any good news at all?
There is fantastic good news. I mean, people talk about companies like Everready and some multinationals who are relocating their head offices and downsizing. This, if you know the number of employees that Everready has, it's a very small company that its closure is to a large extent as a result of the inefficiencies that we see. But what I think is important is you need to see the number of domestic companies that are expanding.
Adan Mohammed's optimistic note is partly supported by the JLL City Momentum Index 2017, which ranked Nairobi as the 10th most dynamic city in the world. It said that the ranking wasn't a measure of the best cities to invest in, but identifies change and highlights which cities are the best at positioning themselves to compete in an ever-changing economic landscape.
Overall, we are very pleased that Nairobi and Kenya in particular continues to be one of the best investment destinations. We have attracted more than $1.5 billion of investments into our country and continuing to grow.
Participants at this year's WEF annual meeting grappled with potentially earth-shattering changes to international trade pacts and where that left emerging market economies like Kenya.
What we may sometimes do not realize as Kenyans is that Kenya is rated very highly amongst investors, and everywhere in many sessions I've been to, Kenya is cited as an example. I think we are doing well, but because we are in the situation, sometimes we tend to be very self-critical.
In terms of trade, where's our place in the global ecosystem?
Well, international trade is one of the topical subjects that have been discussed extensively by the World Economic Forum here in Davos. And it's basically emanating from a number of events that have been going on before the coming in of Donald Trump as the new president of the United States. And what that means is I think there's a lot of fear that the world is now becoming much more anti-global, getting more protectionist. And what that does is countries like ours, which have very small domestic market, that is traditionally dependent on international export markets like Europe, like the US, could potentially be affected by this.
CS Adan Mohammed's last meeting here was making a formal request to the World Economic Forum to see if it can host its 2018 African meeting in Nairobi. No word yet on when Kenya will know if that's a yes or a no. Larry Madowo, NTV in Davos, Switzerland.